Welcome to the First Five Podcast. I'm your host, Michael Corey, and I'm joined by my co-host,
Drew Gotro.
And normally in the studio, we have local comics coming in to talk about their shows and comedic development. But guys, this time we have real comics hanging out with us tonight. Well, please welcome to the podcast, Neil Rubenstein and Abby Washuta.
Hello.
Yeah.
All right.
Thanks for having us.
We also have in the background, you won't see him, but a friend of the show, Tyler Arsenault, is here joining us.
Hello.
One of the usual lower tier guests we have on the show.
So you guys are in town doing a bit of an LA run, Louisiana run, kind of, and some Florida dates too. How did that come together? Tyler set the whole thing up.
Mr. Arsenault.
Okay, shit, yeah.
I came through like maybe 2 years ago with our buddy Will Loden,
Mm-hmm.
and he introduced me to the mayor of I-10.
Yeah.
And it's a history. Now it's history.
Yeah.
Every time I got to get from, so I have one brother that lives in Sarasota and one brother that lives in Austin.
Mm-hmm.
So every time I got to go from one to the other, I just call Tyler and he makes it happen. So.
Shit, yeah, man. Now, if you don't know, Will Loden is out of Houston.
Yes,
He does the You Look Like show that's been coming into town. So if you guys want to check that out, I'll be on the next one in June, May. I'll let you know. So yeah, Will's a good guy. Have you known Will for a while?
We met, golly, I don't know how we met.
You just got Southern right now.
I don't know how we met. We met doing shows somewhere, and we just hit it off. Like we just got like, I don't know. We just vibed like right away.
Yeah, hell yeah.
And he's just like he's just such a solid dude. So
Yeah.
I was like, yo, we should do like a Southern run,
Mm-hmm.
like Memphis, Mississippi, Alabama. And he was like, you know, in his Will fashion, was like, hell yeah, we got it, you know, and that was it. And so we did one, and then we introduced each other to all of our friends in the area, and now,
Well, how have those shows been going?
These shows, Louisiana is unbelievable.
That's been great.
I remember I came down here with a headliner I used to work with, and I was like, yo, like, they were like, oh, New Orleans is going to be fun and Houston's going to be fun. I was like, yo, Lafayette. I was like, do not sleep on Lafayette. And it was by far the best show of the tour. And it was just like, it's just always fun here. I like Louisiana quite a bit. We were in Gonzales. That was fun. I've been to Alexandria. That was a blast.
Yeah.
Lake Charles is always fun. Lake Charles, I think, is always the highlight too. Like, no offense to like Lafayette's dope, but like, for some reason, that audience in Lake Charles, I mean, last night and the first time, I mean, there was no one there and it was still like just unbelievable.
Yeah. Good deal. Now, we do have a venue in here where we typically see a lot of the comedians play. It's a Club 337. Have you been talking to Jason about potentially?
Well, I did it with the headliner that I worked with. And then I think we talked about it for this, but he was doing Karen Feehan this weekend.
Right.
So I don't think he could do two.
Yeah.
And this is the only weekend that worked for me.
Oh, gotcha.
But I'll we were talking off air, like, I don't know when I can come back again. You know, like I feel like I've been here 4 times in like a year and a half. So it's like, I got to take a minute before I come back again. But when I come back, I would like to do that room and, you know.
And props to that room because I think Karen had to cancel her New Orleans show, but then here it still came through. So that's like amazing that.
Now, Abby, is this your first time doing Louisiana shows or?
First time doing Louisiana shows. Neil's been like traveling around this whole month all over the U.S., kind of like doing tours. And I am based out of New York, and I just been flying in kind of like Thursday through Sunday or Monday to just like glom onto his shows and stuff and put me on. So yeah, it's been great. Yeah.
We got first impressions.
Everybody's so nice. The audiences are so supportive, and we've had such a fun time. It's been like everyone wants to hang, they want to chat afterwards. Like, I'm like, should I move to Lafayette because this has been really nice. Good weather, good people, good food.
One of the things I notice is that every time like a good comic comes in from out of town, I'm always paying attention to how my Louisiana compatriots are like attending the shows, and I've noticed every time somebody from out of town comes in, they're super rowdy and loud and shouting shit out. And somebody always brings the show to a screeching halt at some point with some sort of it's usually like some sort of positive heckling kind of.
The supportive hecklers.
Have you had any of that so far while you've been here?
Not here, really.
No, we had a dude last night who wouldn't stop talking. He didn't realize he was at a show, I think. He like paid money for a show and then just like he was like giving like his girlfriend like a short dissertation on I don't know what, but he talked for the like I was doing my first 10 minutes and he was doing his first 10 minutes at the same time, just with like a deep bass. And so he finally like the guy sitting next to him was like, "Can you be quiet?" And he was like, "Well, I gotta be quiet." And then they finally asked him. He's like, "I came to the show so I could talk," So.
Yeah.
But other than that, no, everybody's been really great.
Yeah.
There was actually a lady last night who she raised her hand at some point very politely
Really?
because she just wanted to be picked on to she could give me a tag to my bit, which I didn't choose her at the moment, but she came to me after the show and was like, "I was raising my hand so I could give you some ideas about what you should say to this joke."
Oh,
And it
thank
was
you
very
for that.
nice,
Yeah,
yeah.
please start from the beginning and go slow. Yeah,
Yeah, totally.
That's ridiculous.
That's always fun too. It's like you crush for 20 minutes and then someone's like, "Ralph's," and you're like, "Why do you think I needed your help? Did you see me flounder at all this whole time? Like, why are we?"
Yeah, they just want to be involved. They're like, "I have an idea for your little skits."
Oh, yes, those
Well,
are the best.
I like the thing too. Some of them, it's like they don't realize like they're not at home watching TV, and they'll say something, and then whenever if you acknowledge it, and then they're like, "Oh shit!"
They can see
Like, that's
me.
what they realize. Like, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Karen ripped some poor blonde in the front row a new asshole because she just wouldn't shut up the whole night. Like, I mean, you guys bumped into them last night at Cafe the place it's our spot we go typically after 337 shows. Do either of you know Karen from the scene or
Yeah.
whatever? Okay,
Karen?
all right, yeah.
Yeah, she's great.
All right, yeah, so-
she had
so-
to rip someone a new one last night.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it was all in fun, but I'm sure it wasn't fun for her, but if she would have just shut up, it would have been fine.
I mean, it happens so much in New York. New York is like the worst. I mean, honestly, the worst. Like, I think I almost never have a show that is not like a bouncer has to like remove somebody or like there's always,
Yeah.
it's bad. It's bad. I mean, it's a good place to like, it's a hard place to get up and like hone your skills in that way because there's like, you're always doing battle, I feel like.
Right. Right.
But yeah, here everybody was really nice. So.
Yeah, and here we don't. A lot of the people that are in the local scene that have made their first trips to New York recently, they are all kind of coming back and being like, "Oh, you have to pay to do open mics there." And it makes a lot of sense to do that, to create something. It's kind of like when you're trying to give away an animal. Like, I don't know if you guys have ever been in a situation. You don't want to just give away an animal on the internet. You could charge $5 and that could be the difference between that poor animal going to a good home or whatever. I kind of feel like that same principle in some way applies to open mics, where the more people that are trying to get on a mic, the smallest barrier to entry, like having to pay to get on it, keeps a
None
little
of
bit
this
of the
logic
riffraff.
works for human trafficking at all, though.
Well, we had to figure out all new rules for that. That's a different podcast.
It's attrition. Like, it's built-in attrition. It's like making the new guys, even if it's like a bucket pull, like their name weight is heavier on the paper.
Yeah.
And so they're at the bottom of the bucket every time. And it's just like, like, because if it was, what's the saying? If it was easy, everyone would do it.
Yeah.
So like, you just have to build in some attrition to just be like,
100%.
Yeah, I also just the practicality of like people in New York, like bars in New York, just are not going to give you their space without getting something back from it. So it's like there just is not the opportunity to, I don't know, any free mics, or if it is free, you have to buy like a drink or do something. So yeah, it's always something.
cupboard.
You gotta buy a drink.
Cupboard, you have to buy a drink?
Yeah.
Oh. You sure? Upstairs? I think it's
so.
free.
I don't know. Okay,
Maybe not.
That was the plants argument all over again.
Well, I think we both agree that the plants look nice.
I think they look very nice. Yeah.
Thank you very much. They
I
will,
didn't come in here like, what the?
they will look like this forever because they are plastic. So we went to, it was us. Yes. Sorry, I've been drinking a little bit. We went to Austin this past weekend.
Yeah.
Okay, and it was our first time going to check it out. Drew is like a big time Kill Tony fan.
We don't have to put it out like that.
Okay, he's seen the show
We'll
once.
change that in post. Yeah.
Drew's a huge loser.
The voiceover will just be like, Drew is a medium Kill Tony fan. Yeah.
There we go.
Swell guy.
Yeah, like could take it or leave it.
Well, so we talk about. We've been talking about getting out there for a while, so we finally went and checked it out for the first time. And you said you have a brother that lives there?
Yeah, did you put your name in the bucket?
We did.
Did you
Yeah.
get pulled?
No.
No.
They said a couple
of
of names.
white guys.
Yeah.
Just a couple of regular white guys.
But the whole time, every time they would pull someone's name, I was like, oh, thank God. And then once it was over, I was like, Man, it's a shame. I would have crushed.
No, that's the number one way to handle it. Yeah,
How many
is to wait
names
till
do
you
they
don't get
pull?
up and then be like, I would have killed you.
I felt like there was about 8.
Yeah, I would say somewhere around there.
8
6
like
or 8.
random, and then they pull their
Yeah.
regulars, right?
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. And I think it was like Spade and Attell were on the panel as
Oh.
guests.
Yeah.
Ooh.
So that would have been kind of nerve-wracking.
I would
too.
love to
Dude,
get up
I
in front
would've
of
passed
Spade.
out.
Oh
That's
my
what I was
God,
thinking too, yeah.
Right.
Because Spade likes to like bring up new comics,
Mm-hmm.
so he'd be someone who was like,
Yeah.
when he
Hell
had
yeah.
that like Lights Out show, he brought up a bunch of like people's their first.
Yeah, that's basically what was
TV.
all the thoughts going through my head after that.
Mm-hmm.
Was when I found out Spade was there, and then like right after I found out that they weren't doing any more bucket pulls because Jason was in there, so he was
Mhm.
messaging us like, yeah, they're not they're picking for a woman, and then they're gonna go to William Montgomery. So I was like, all right, well then it's over. We're not getting up. And I was like, it's a shame because if Spade would have seen me,
Yeah, it would have been. Yeah.
yeah,
They have a separate bucket pull for women?
They
No.
just make sure that they pull one.
yeah. If they go where the show's almost over and there hasn't been a woman yet,
Yeah.
then they'll pick. So
I gotta get on that bucket.
Mhm.
One vagina. It's a better,
Mhm.
probably a better chance, just
Mhm.
statistically speaking,
Yeah,
Yeah.
to have a vagina.
to have a vagina.
Mm-hmm.
Lower number of vagina having comics
Yeah.
there.
1 vagina, 2 vagina,
I
3
gotta
vagina,
get-
blue
Four.
vagina.
Yeah.
Is that okay?
I gotta get one of those.
If you can't find one, there's a popular movie popcorn bucket that's been going around that I think people are using as a vagina. Have you tried it out yet, Tyler?
popcorn bucket.
He's not
Dude,
answering the
that's a
question, by the way.
That's a throwback, dude. That's like
Yeah, it was at least 2 weeks ago. That was very popular.
the popcorn. I thought we were talking about that's
The Dune popcorn bucket. That
oh,
like a
I'm
pocket
not, I
pussy?
don't know what the fuck we're talking about.
okay.
I was thinking of PB Herman.
Normally, I can meet you there, but I have no idea what you're talking about right now.
Didn't
But that's
PB
okay.
Isn't that how PB Herman got on with trouble?
In the
No, he
Or
didn't
he
use
was
a
just
bucket.
jerking
He just freehanded.
yeah, but he was in a porno movie theater.
Yeah, I thought that's why the bucket was the problem.
Mm.
I don't
He
understand.
brought popcorn into a movie theater.
Yeah.
Get up here, sir.
Yeah, you gotta freehand it like the rest of us.
It's hard to nut when your feet are like with the butter. The butter's gross.
Slippery, yeah.
Semen's different. It's flaky when it dries.
So, friend of the show, Jason Leonard had a really good set at the Crew show at Rogan's at the Comedy Mothership, and so we're all sort of like, he's playing it cool, but the rest of us are sort of like on pins and needles, waiting to see like what's going to happen when he goes back, because he's going back with Feehan this coming weekend.
Today, tomorrow.
Yeah.
Wait, do we
So-
meet this guy already?
Jason,
Is this the
JP.
Oh,
He was
JP.
there
Oh,
last
JP,
night.
aka Jason. Oh, good.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, so
Badass.
he apparently absolutely destroyed like a perfect set, and I don't know if like one perfect set is enough to impress Adam, but I mean, Jason was very pleased, and if he was pleased, then I trust that he had a great set. So I am curious to see what how that looks, and I kind of want to get y'all's opinion. Being more established, would you go to Austin and hope to get the bucket pull and think that a spot on Kill Tony would elevate you to a certain whatever the next level is for you, or would you expect that once you've ascended to a certain level, the bucket pull or a great set on Kill Tony is less of a bump?
I had a friend who did like a set on Kill Tony. I mean, obviously lots of people have done it, and it seems like if you're particularly memorable, or if you like have if you're like a Cam Patterson that gets pulled to be a regular,
Right.
that's gonna change your life. But like her career didn't wildly change. She did well. They gave her like all the and it's like, all right. I think, listen, who would not want that? Like, there's no exposure. I think that was bad exposure. Even bad exposure is probably good exposure. But I would love to do like a bucket set just to get up there and like have somebody see you, and maybe it's like.
Yeah.
Maybe you get nothing out of it, but maybe in a couple of years, they're like, "Oh yeah, I remember that girl who had a decent thing for the thing." Yeah,
100%.
I think any opportunity you have to be seen is like good.
I'm still formulating my opinion on that. Like I've been talking about it for a couple of days now, because I'm gonna be in Austin on Monday.
Yeah.
And I'll do the Mothership mic just because it's a fun thing, and I've done it before, and I've gotten like passed to the Cruise show, and so like I definitely want to be seen by the booker again. So I would like to get passed in that club, You know, so when I come to Austin and I have a few days off, you know, I have a free place to stay because I have friends and family there, and it'd be a nice thing to have when I'm there. I can go make a couple of bucks and get some time. That'd be great.
Yeah.
That said, I don't know, man. Kill Tony. It's like, do I want to wait in the pen with like a juggler and a tumbler and a ventriloquist and like a guy in a
Yeah, it was pretty
kilt?
crazy.
Yeah, and it's like these guys, like we all do the same job. Like I'm the same as that guy. You know what I mean? So there's like a little bit of that where I'm like, you know, but then like, yeah, I guess I got to swallow my pride and be like, yeah, I'm gonna go up there and do the best minute they've seen, and they're gonna be like, cool. You're old and fat. We have one of you. You know, have them make like a terrible hack Santa roast, or you know, some kind of Sons of Anarchy reference that I've heard a million times since and then you know, and then I make fun of Tony too rudely, and then that's it.
Yeah, I think there's like I think the way to go about it, like almost like doing well there, would be like it's like less interesting. You almost rather bomb memorably or do like some weird shit that because they like the weird, you know. So we're talking about like what joke would be good for you.
I'm not interested in either of those.
No, but like a weird, you know, like a joke that's like a little bit like it's not the normal, like we were talking about.
Right,
things might be interesting for you. It's like to talk about some bits that might be memorable, where at least it's like they're gonna spend some time. Because if you just like get up there and do well, which you would, they might be like, it's like it's not even the interesting part of the show. They might cut that out of the final, you know, app. It's like that's a guy did good. That's not what we're here for.
Yeah,
a good comic did well.
Yeah, that's not what we're in it for.
Yeah,
that's
it's not a
shocking.
surprise. Right, no novelty there. Yeah, it's more novel when somebody gets up there as like no prior experience, just knocks it out of the park. Like I don't watch the show really. So like, you know, like I said, somebody in the room has watched it at least once, and so I finally decided to watch one, and the guy that got up was, you know, kind of terrible, and they asked him how long he'd been doing it, and he very confidently said 6 years. Right? Wouldn't you want to lie?
Definitely lie.
6 months sounds like a better figure to use.
What's crazy too is sometimes it's something like that. And they'll be like, how long you been doing it? Please, like, don't say too long. And they'll say like 4 years. And they'll be like, okay, well, that's fine then. And I'm like, what?
Right.
That's where I'm like, we must have a really good scene here.
Yeah, well, there is a...
I was thinking like for 4 years.
There is a curve too, because like 4 years in like Bakersfield or, you know, whatever... Des Moines is probably different. I mean, it's certainly different than 4 years in New York, but it's probably different than 4 years here too. Like,
because I think here we don't get to go up a lot, like when you're doing open mics and stuff. So that kind of hurts us. But it does seem like a lot of the time when you go up, you kind of get a little bit more out of it.
We were talking about that last night. I was saying to Tyler, because you guys also get more like actual time on stage here, which like in New York, it takes you a really long time to get to a place where you're even regularly getting 10 minutes.
We don't have such a crazy amount of people signing up, you know?
Yeah, I was kind of thinking about that. The places that are the biggest, you know, urban centers and places where like comedy is huge. The way that it works around just the local scene is that when we get beyond open micers and we start getting booked on local shows where you might make $50 or $100 and be able to say, hey, you know, we did a showcase
for a set out, $50 to $100.
That's crazy. Yeah, that's amazing.
That's just very normal around here for like people that have not been doing comedy very long. And it's not the money so much as it is the idea that like I get paid to do comedy. I'm no longer just an open micer, because there's like that almost, it doesn't seem like there's really a middle class in the entertainment industry. Generally, you're either like poor, right? Or you've made it. And there doesn't seem to be a way to just be like a normal, whatever, steady income, and you're comfortable like a doctor or something. And so I've always wondered.
He doesn't have the same
I'm talking out of my ass.
Like a totally lower middle class guy.
He's like a regular working class schlub, like a dentist or an optometrist. Just someone who's really, you know,
just comfortable.
Someone who really, you know, gets in there in the grit and the dirt, like an OBGYN.
He's only in like a mid-level country club, you know.
You play golf once, twice a week, tops.
I'm less out of touch than that would lead you to believe. But the idea being that I always wonder, like, when we stop doing just open mics and start doing local showcases and getting any amount of money at all, we feel good about being able to say we're not exactly just open micers anymore. But in some of the larger places where some of the biggest comedy clubs are, places like, LA and New York, but also Austin or Chicago, it seems I don't even know what it's like. Like, do you just stay an open micer until you make it, or are there just
you stay an open mic until you die?
Yeah, that's the other option.
Or quit. Yeah,
right.
I mean, when I go to New York or Long Island, I'm an open micer.
Mm-hmm.
I go to open mics with everyone.
I don't think that's the same as being an open micer, right? That you attend open mics. I think maybe, at least in the city, there's less of this, like, you graduate past open mics. It's like still, like, I mean, big, like, Comedy Cellar people are still sometimes like roll through and be like, can I just do, so it's still just a place where people are trying stuff. But in terms of being an open micer, I think there is a middle class of, like, comedians in New York, and that's the thing that I always talk about. Like, my family's like, when are you going to quit? Like, you're never going to be Amy Schumer. Like, what is the goal here? And it's like, there isn't, like, it's not like be an open micer or be Amy Schumer. Like, I'm like, I just want to be like one of those nameless, faceless comics in New York who makes money that you never heard of, but they, like, have a staff writer job that you never heard of on a show you don't know. But it's like, there's plenty of that. And I think there's space for that. And that's, yeah.
And there's even, I mean, it's died a little bit, but there is still, like, a road dog life available too. I mean, it usually includes or needs to include cruise ships and church stuff. But, like, there is, I mean, not so much anymore, but there was a time when you could just do 50 clubs a year,
Why is that not happening anymore?
It's like a little weedsy, but it went from the comedy industry went from soft tickets to hard tickets. Soft tickets being like, what do you want to do Friday night? Oh, let's go to the comedy club. That was like 100% of the comedy club audience.
Oh, wow.
In 2018, let's say. Now, 75% of the people that go to comedy clubs are like, oh, this person I follow on TikTok is at Looney Bin this week. I'm going to go. So it's like, that's a hard ticket. Like what you would do to go see Tool versus what you would go see, like, a cover band at a bar. Right. Like, I don't know if you have, like, a Nutty Irishman here where, like, there's just, like, a band that plays Warped Tour songs. And it's like, oh, let's just go to the bar tonight. There's going to be a cover band. That's a soft ticket. They don't care what the band is. Right. So 100%. If you're going to see Karen Feehan tonight in Lafayette, well, maybe not Lafayette because Lafayette's like
seen her butthole.
No, absolutely not.
If you're going,
okay, there's a reason we didn't give you a microphone.
No, what I'm trying to say, Lafayette.
We knew you were going to say something like that.
Lafayette has, like, a little bit of a built-in crowd, so it is a little bit of a half and half. But, like, Lake Charles, no one's just going, like, well, I get even Lake.
No, I think maybe around here. There is maybe around here. Comedy.
But, like,
maybe in
the Columbus
Detroit.
Funny Bone.
Yeah.
Right.
75% of the audience is like, oh, this teacher I follow on TikTok is going to be there tonight. Like, I'm going to go see him. So this is what I'm trying to say.
100%. So when I was watching your special, 75%. One of the things that got my attention was that you, and fuck, I don't know. I know people make shit up all the time for jokes, but you mentioned not trying weed for the first time, maybe until sometime during the pandemic. 2021. Or drugs in general. I think weed might have been what you started with, but you mentioned not doing drugs before. I'm also one of these guys that doesn't do drugs and is of a certain age, and it's like, why didn't you try it yet?
The fuck does that mean?
Yeah, I have no idea. I have
certain age.
Yeah, well, we both have a little bit of gray in our beard, so I assume we were around the same age.
What the fuck are you doing?
Men of a Certain Age podcast.
Look, we're all 20-year-olds in here, but being young 20-year-olds, I know what it's like to have gone at least to that point and having never done drugs before.
Yeah, I just never did them.
Yeah,
and then I do. And I wish I had started doing them.
Okay, so that was right away. You're like, why haven't I been doing this all along?
Which is probably like why you didn't do it, is because you were worried that you were going to have exactly that experience. You're like, turns out this is great, and that's not going to be a problem. Yeah,
I have like a real, what they call it, like an addictive personality. It's just probably like OCD or bipolar or something. Yeah. But I've always been like, I mean, whatever. Like, I started comedy, and I was like, I gotta do full comedy. It's gonna be all my life. So I knew to avoid drugs and alcohol back in the day because I was like, oh, it's gonna be bad. Right. But then I got to a point where I was like, I think I could try it, and I make some arbitrary rules,
Mhm.
like I won't smoke weed more than 4 nights in a row, and I won't do anything before work or if I have to drive or any of that thing. And yeah, so, I mean, I still don't finish a alcoholic beverage when I try them. Like, I'm just like,
He just buys them and carries them around and just
Yeah.
leaves empty cans all over, or half full cans wherever.
Oh, that's a shame.
what's
Just holds it. That's great.
yeah.
There's all kinds of poor kids in the world that can't afford beer, and you're just leaving it.
Kids in China are not even getting beer, and here you are
Yeah.
not drinking yours.
To be fair, I can't afford it either.
That's true.
I only drink when people
Yeah.
buy me it.
That's funny. Yeah.
Most of my drink tickets end up in the trash can at the bar.
Yeah, I give them to somebody else generally, but once in a blue moon, someone's like, "Oh, you want a blue moon?" And I'm like, "Oh, sure." And I'll like sit with someone and like I'll have 3 sips, and then it'll sit down. I'm like, "Can I also get a Diet Coke and a water?"
Mhm. Now, it's not surprising that people were trying all kinds of things they'd never done before, given what we were all going through at the time. So I'm curious more about. I know I didn't do it originally for
Why?
some
What did you guys
mixture-
have down here?
I was waiting to hear. What
Right.
I was thinking the same thing.
Oh, you guys get hurricanes a lot.
We do.
Yeah.
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 We get pandemics. I don't know.
So what made you not do it leading up? Oh, well, you mentioned kind of some concern about.
Yeah, I mean, my siblings are all like way older than me, and I
Mhm.
saw like what they did and struggled with, and I was like, I don't want to do that.
Right.
I want to be way more of a loser, and so I just never did them. And then like I got into hardcore and punk rock, and
Yeah.
straight edge was like a big
An
gang,
option, yeah.
a big
Mhm.
gang, yeah. So I was
Right.
like, oh, I'm gonna hang out with these lunatics and do
Two-
way worse shit.
2 black X's on your hands.
Yeah, all the time.
Fuck
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I still have them somewhere. And yeah, and then it just at some point I was like,
Yeah, it's just like cosplaying like you do drugs, but not. Like,
Cosplay.
yeah, it's like.
now or
Say
then?
more.
No,
Say
not
more.
now. I'm saying like when you do like the straight edge punk thing is like we're gonna do everything that would make you think we're doing drugs.
Right, yeah, but we're not doing
We're gonna
drugs.
do everything but the drugs.
It's a
yeah.
little different culturally, but
Yeah,
yeah,
we're
I
gonna
mean, I
have
get what you're
mohawks,
saying.
and when
Yeah.
people look at us and be like, "What the fuck you looking at?"
Yeah, that was no. I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, I don't want to ruin the joke, but that's,
Thank you.
I want to yes end it, but
Yeah.
I morally can't. To my straight edge, my friends that are still straight edge will be mad at me that I misrepresented.
Yeah, I get it, man.
their culture. My
Respect.
culture's not your costume.
I get it.
Respect. I was telling my wife today, I was like, I don't know if I should. I have ADHD, and I've always had. And so I'm not sure if I should try, because he's been trying to get me to try weed for a long time, and I am trying to figure out whether like Adderall would help me sort me out better and going in that direction, or like going in the weed direction. I'm not really sure
What do
which
you think?
one.
I have ADD too, and I do a little of the Adderall.
And you do a little weed.
Only recently, yeah. I also started weed later in life.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Okay.
the Adderall is very helpful. I have to say.
Oh,
It's very helpful. Yeah, it really does get me through the day. It's like impossible to get now. There's like a weird shortage, but
Oh, I didn't realize.
if you can do it, I find it very helpful because otherwise I'll just be like, I can't focus.
Okay, so with yours, do you ever deal with the hyperactivity aspect of it? Because I'm only inattentive. I don't have the hyperactive thing.
Yeah, I definitely have the hyperactive thing for
Oh,
sure.
okay.
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, less so as an adult, but yeah, I'm a little bit. Yeah, people would be like, "Are you on something?" And I'd be like, "This is just my personality. This is me. This is me tapping it down."
Okay.
Or like sometimes it would be like on a stage, especially I have to really watch how fast I'm talking. Like I have to, it's
Right.
always a problem because I'm like, "Brrr," as soon as I can see the audience just go, and I'm like, okay, they didn't get any of that. They didn't get any of
Right.
that. I gotta start over. Yeah.
This is one of the only negative things to these plants, though, is they make you they make you feel comfortable, like getting medical advice for people like this in here. Like,
The plants feel like we're doing like a little bit of a medical
like
podcast.
There's like medical professionals you could ask.
Yeah, you're like,
Yeah,
I asked
just
this
middle
comic.
class.
He's always asking them
Just
in here.
middle
though.
class medical professionals.
Right. The struggling.
Regular, hardworking
This
doctors
is why they're struggling, because people like him
are asking Abby
trying to get free advice.
I will tell you about the weed. I also started late in life. I had cancer a year or two ago, and I started
with the
because of that.
cancer.
I know. I never ends. But I started because of that, and I was always like a drinker.
We made it 35 minutes
right, you
without
get
her.
hungover. The hangover, if I like look at a drink, I'm going to be the same amount of hungover as if I have 10 drinks, which is like never fun. Weed, you can have a fun time. There's no hangover. You can get up in the morning, you go to the gym, you feel good. So I was never a weed person, but that changed me to be like, oh my God, you can have a little relaxation, a little fun, no hangover. So that's my stamp of approval for weed.
Now, you guys, I don't know when you started it, but like I didn't, you grew up, you had like the pre-weed revolution experience, right? You were smoking from a young age, and then you got to see how it changed, and they made it like so much more potent.
Yeah.
Right. So you kind of had to go through that experience. Do you think that it would be easier for somebody to start doing it now when they don't have to worry about trying to figure out how to unlearn what they knew about weed from beforehand?
If you're with somebody who knows what they're doing.
Yeah.
Because I could see with the weed being strong like it is, if you just eat some really high concentrated edibles or something like that, you're probably not going to want to do it again.
Right.
Start slow.
Yeah.
Build.
But at the same time, like when I first started smoking weed, it was like 7 or 8% THC. So like you would smoke like a whole joint or something, or like 4 guys would like smoke a whole blunt, and then it'd be like, oh yeah, we're high. If 4 people sit down and smoke a blunt, like we're out of our minds nowadays. So
yeah, better stuff now.
All right. So we're talking about weed, and I just thought I wanted to ask you about your go-to road food.
Skip ahead.
All right.
You want to talk to your go-to road food?
I like chicken or egg.
All right, let's talk about that then.
We can go back if you want. We got time
we'll circle
later.
back to that. So that's what I wanted to ask you both about is the.
It's a good thing it's Neil's show.
How do I say this?
It's always Neil's show.
yeah, Tyler tried doing that when he was a guest, and it didn't go that good for him.
Some people's I think this is a personality thing and personal preference, but some people do not have any issues with just kind of bullshitting their way through situations. And what that means in this context is the idea of having to fake it till you make it, or pretend to be confident or comfortable on stage until you eventually get there. Some people find that repulsive. I personally, that's me. I don't really like doing it. I don't like the idea that I got to pretend to be confident and comfortable on stage until I eventually get there. But it kind of seems like that's necessary in comedy, because it doesn't seem like anybody has any real tolerance for people who get up on stage and are at all questioning in any way, is this funny or do I know what I'm doing? So did you guys individually, did you have to learn how to pretend? Or did you just let the confidence and the comfort come naturally?
I'm still learning. I have especially as like a woman and socialized to be like, you're not, you're like immediately not as funny as men and like whatever. I have a lot of self-esteem issues. And I know, and we all know, the people who get on stage and kill like 90% of the time, even if they're not killing, have the aura of killing, and they get on there, and I don't know if they believe it, but I'm thinking of certain people who I guess I won't even name, but like, just the swagger on some of these guys. And like, I'll talk to friends about it and be like, yo, if I could have like a 10th of just like the blind confidence that they walk on stage being like, everybody's gonna love me, all my like, kill, yo, I killed. And it's like, did you? Like, I don't know, but like, I don't know if they are lying to themselves enough, or like, but I want to channel that. And that's always been a struggle for me. And that's where I still have issues. Like on stage, I have to, or before I get on stage, I have to hype myself up to be like, okay.
Right.
Cause like Colin Quinn has like basically in a podcast was talking about like the only job of a comedian is not to be funny. It's just to make everybody on stage and the audience know that you're comfortable on stage. And that is your only job every time. And that's why like, even if you're doing poorly on stage, if Colin Quinn is doing poorly on stage and everybody hates all his jokes, he's never bombing because he's still comfortable enough with where he is, and the audience doesn't feel that like secondhand embarrassment. And that's like your whole job. And like, that's my constant comedy struggle.
Yeah, I feel that.
There was so much in that question. Like I could literally talk for 2 hours about this. But what I will say is that there's like a well-known chart graph concept theory that in anything you start incompetent and confident.
Mm-hmm.
And then as you learn, as you become more competent, you lose your confidence because you're like, oh, I've been sucking this whole time.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get to a point where you start getting competent and like good.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're like still not confident, but then at some point you become confident and competent.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mhm.
that's just like the thing for all of it is just like, yeah, you come in swinging because you're like, I can do this,
Mhm.
which is why you're
Mhm.
doing it, right? You
Right.
started doing it because you're like, I can do this.
Mhm.
Whether you saw someone suck or whether your friends were like, you're awesome,
Mhm.
you were like, I can do this. And you went
Right.
up and you're like, I can do this. And maybe you did good at your first open mic because you did have that like confidence.
Mhm.
So you did it well, or you perceived to be well. And then like as you start seeing dudes like Tyler at mics and JP and Abby, you're like, oh, I'm not nearly as good as these people. And
Mhm.
so you start to lose that confidence and realize, oh, I'm a piece of shit.
Mhm.
And then as you learn, you're like Abby, where she's at now, where she's like super good, but she's like, I don't know, am I? And it's like, yeah.
Right.
And then at some point she'll get confident and then she'll
Mhm.
be more like, Tyler.
Yeah, you and Will Loden kind of did that to me. When
Let you
y'all
know that
came-
you sucked?
Yeah, y'all came to an open mic and I was feeling very confident about myself.
I remember that night.
Yeah, and then after that, I was like, "Fuck, man!"
Did we
I
tell
need
you
to-
you sucked, or were you just so
no,
good?
y'all just did y'all.
Yeah.
Y'all just did your time. That's all.
Yeah, because we're very good.
Yeah,
See, but like
and I was
that,
like, "Yeah, this is a
is-
totally different thing."
like Neil can, like, I cannot foresee, and then maybe it's also socialization, a point at which, comedy aside, anything that you ask me, like, I'm pretty good at tying my shoes. Pretty good is as far as I will get you. You're like, are you the best at tying your shoes? I'm like, I could be better. Like, I don't know if I'll ever, like, the way that you're like, yo, I get on Kill Tony and I'd kill it. I don't think, no. I'm just
but
saying, like, I think that's fantastic and you are very good and I get it, but I'm just saying, like, I gotta, like, that's going to be 2 years of therapy for
But
me to
I
be
am
able to
also-
be like, I'm a good enough comedian to be here. Like, I have so much, like, in my brain.
I'm
that
also
I don't
doing
make
that thing where I know I have a lot of growth ahead of me.
Yeah.
Like I see real murderers and I'm like, oh, one day. But I do have the confidence that one day,
Mhm.
like it's not a maybe, it is. It's a one day. I work my ass off.
Mhm.
Like I don't
Yeah.
think I'm God's gift to comedy, but I do think I have value and I am knowledgeable of the craft and I can,
One thing I'll say, and I don't know if you'd say it about yourself, but when we were hanging out at Tyler's 6 months ago or whenever it was, and we were
Sausage
just,
Fest?
yeah, absolutely.
Sausage Fest 23.
And we were sitting down, your ability to zero in immediately on like any idea that anybody threw out, whether it was somebody like Tyler, who everybody in the room respects his ability, or somebody like me who's throwing out like real shaky ideas, your ability to zero in immediately on what is or is not funny about the joke from a technical standpoint was very impressive. Did you always have that?
Yeah, I would say, like, at least for as long as I've known Neil, he's always been like surgical about it, and he would like take his pencil out and be like write a sentence out and be like, I'm cutting that one word and that's it. That's all you needed.
I was talking to Tyler about it. It's like Beautiful Mind. As the words come out of your mouth, they circle around.
Yeah, boner.
Yeah.
You know what it is? I used to joke.
Abortion.
Yeah, I used to joke. I was like, the beauty of comedy is that, like I can sit down and like surgically, like Rubik's Cube, whether it's a fart or the fart,
Right.
or just farts, like what, like, it's like I can take that so seriously that I'm like, I think it's a fart.
Could have been a whole different show. Yeah.
It makes all the difference, though.
Yeah,
Makes
well,
all
I mean,
the
it does
difference in
make
the
all the
world.
difference.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
Like I'm struggling now with this like age of consent joke where I'm on the right side of the age of consent, but something about the joke, people are like, ugh, and I'm like, how do I?
So you're the kid in the joke? It's not your fault.
Yeah, that's real.
I'm sorry, I'm always messing up.
No,
No, that's great. That's what we're doing here.
It's your pod.
That's what we're doing here.
It's your pod. I'm
Doing
just
bits.
living
That's
it.
all
Doing
he's
hot
here.
bits.
Well, so do you, but so that sort of X-shaped diagram that you were describing earlier, but would you agree that you still have to project that confidence and that swag in order for people to see you as funny?
Yeah, I mean, when you're on that stage, you have to be the authority. Otherwise, the audience doesn't trust the stage. That's a huge component of it.
Mhm.
Like if the host gets up and he's like, "Oh, I don't know what I'm doing," and this next comic, I don't know, it's your first comic, I don't know anything about her. Like this is Amber Baluta, and she's like, "What do you like? That guy
Abby
sucked."
Washuta, yeah.
And then everyone's gonna be like, "That guy's a loser." Like, well, I
Right.
don't. Anyone can do that. I can do that.
Mhm.
So like, there is like a little bit of like servicing the craft where it's like, well, get up there and have a little confidence and know what the fuck
Right.
you're. Like
Right.
you have to be the authority on.
Yeah, I'm just pretending. I think you have to pretend. You have to at least fake it. I think that
Yeah.
is the only thing.
That
And
annoys me so much because
you're just gonna fake it. But
Abby's
that's
so
what
good,
you can
and
do.
she's like,
You just have to project that good. I don't think that I can think. I don't know that I'll ever be able to be like, I think I'm good. What I think that hypes myself up and then gets me to a better place is that I'm a likable person, and if this were a party, I would make friends here, and I could make friends on the stage too. And so, like, even if you don't think I'm the funniest person ever, like, I won't get on here, and you're not gonna be like, oh, this
Right.
lady. So at least I have to
Right.
remember, like, my hype thing is you're popular at parties. You're popular at parties.
That's a good mantra. I like that. Yeah. And
I mean, that's so important though.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I mean, you've heard me talk about it like a million times. You probably heard me too at Tyler's. Like, the most important thing, and this is for comics, so like I can get wheezy. Like the most important thing is like you started doing this because your friends were like, "Yo, you're funny. You should try stand up." So it's just bring whatever your friends saw in you to strangers.
Yeah.
You know,
Mhm.
like I always talk about like if any one of us was at a party where it's all strangers and we stood alone in the corner, at some point during the night, everyone's standing around you because you're charming and entertaining and magnetic.
Right. Mhm.
And that's what brought us to this world that we're in now.
Mhm.
I mean, I think it goes for like, I think it's 100% across the board. I mean,
Mhm.
the people that aren't are going to end up just being writers, you know, because
Yeah.
they're not, because they might be skilled, but they can't own that stage. They can't.
And there's some of that in New York where someone's like a killer writer, but like their stage presence never comes along. But you like
Right.
read the bit written down. You're like, yo, you should say this on stage. Oh, you've been saying it. Okay, well, I don't know what's not.
Right.
Yeah,
Well, you should write this for Fallon.
yeah. You should let Fallon say this on
Yeah,
stage.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We see people sometimes that'll come through like open mics and don't really stick around. And some of what they're saying, a lot of what they're saying is, I was like, this isn't bad. But it's like they're just so unlikable,
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
you know, that it doesn't matter. And it's like a thing is where sometimes I wonder, it's like, well, I wonder if maybe they would have stuck with it if they would have figured that part out,
Right.
or they're just too unlikable and they should just write, you know?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Just be in a dark hole somewhere, not letting
Yeah.
anyone see your face.
There's a kid in New York, Russ Silberman, who like I genuinely love his writing, and he's figured it out. Like he's leaned into his unlikability
Mm-hmm.
in a very charismatic way.
Mhm.
But I remember I was like doing a buddy of ours does like a Kill Tony type open mic in New York, like once a month, like a feedback mic. And he got up and I was like, dude, you write good jokes, but you are so unlikable. Like the minute I saw you, I hated your guts. I almost didn't.
Yeah.
I almost didn't want to listen to your jokes. And he's like, he's dying laughing, but it was brutal. And like, he's leaned into it a little bit, and like his writing has caught up to his personality has caught up to his writing. So.
See, now a more like well-known example of that would be, and I'm going to put myself out here, but maybe like a Jeselnik, because he's talked about that himself, about how when he first started doing it, everybody just looked at him as a young guy and was like, oh, I fucking hate that guy. And he says that he leaned into that.
I don't know. I'm not going to buy it because he's a handsome guy and he's charming and I think what made him unlikable is that he's doing dead baby jokes. You know what I mean? Like
Or
the
did he
writing.
start doing
Right.
dead baby jokes because he was like, I'm already kind of a dick on stage. Like, let me lean into this.
Yeah, but
dick persona.
pomposity and unlikable are different things.
I guess so. Yeah.
Like Daniel Tosh might have suffered from pomposity,
Yeah.
but he was never
Yeah.
unlikable.
Yeah.
Right.
You know what I mean? Whereas I could see you being unlikable.
I was thinking of another way to say it, but I was thinking the exact same thing.
Oh my god.
All right. So I think when I was reading the Medium article about you, I think they opened with this line, and then you ended up using it. Yeah, it was a Medium did an article. Well, I don't know the individual journalist's name, but whoever, it was on Medium, and they did a quote, and I think you used the quote in your bio on your website, and it was talking about playing against type, and it reminded me of this guy because the way it was you, I think the way that I can't remember, I'm going to flub this, but basically they were just talking about how maybe you come across as like a burly tattooed guy who would be really intimidating, but then your vibe is very friendly and cool. And that sort of built-in irony works. And it made me think about him because I think a lot of people look at him locally and see the camo hat and everything, and they sort of peg him as like, oh, this dude's going to be one of these conservative,
Yeah, they want to be
racist, everything in the book, everything that comes along with that conservative trope. And then when he starts making jokes, his jokes are surprisingly very thoughtful and very fresh. His stuff about homosexuality, just all this other kind of stuff that might make somebody around here locally uncomfortable. They look at him, and then when he starts speaking, there's a built-in irony in the fact that he's so smart and thoughtful.
I like to play dumb too. It's very easy for me to play dumb.
Yeah, I like that. A lot.
He's a backhanded comment.
He straight up was just like, this guy looks like a dumb piece of shit. But like, he'll surprise you because once in a while,
it's so funny.
He'll say something not so dumb, and you're like, Cletus said something not the stupidest shit.
It was the most condescending thing I might have ever said. But
what I really like about this idiot is that once in a blue moon,
he's not as dumb as you think he's gonna be.
It is true though, for the sake of talking comedy baseball, inside baseball or whatever. It is true. It does work. Very great that I can.
Do you lean into that on stage, like that you're gonna be like this like redneck, and then you're like, I'll tell you what I like about Biden.
Yeah, and I'm just like, hey, y'all, kind of a little bit. Mm-hmm. So it plays into some things they're not expecting.
Mm-hmm. No, I think that's really good. I mean, I feel like you do that a lot on stage. Yeah.
Sure.
I mean, it's on your website.
You do it too, because you get on stage and they're like, "Oh, this is a woman. She's gonna be shitty," and then you're good.
I lean into being good.
You know, that is interesting because should
I lean into being good?
Secretly, one of the promoters that has Fee in on some Louisiana days this weekend, he sent us a screenshot of some fuckhead made the comment, "Women aren't funny," under his post from the Lafayette Comedy website about
one of the dumbest takes.
Right? Isn't it just the worst take?
No, find a funnier way to say it if you're gonna say it.
Like you're not proving the case for men, but certainly.
Yeah, find a funny way to say that if you're gonna say it.
Yeah, I don't know, man. God, this is gonna sound like such a fucking male feminist douchebag thing to say, but I don't get it. I don't personally see a woman on the lineup and think, let's, fingers crossed. I don't understand that. Why is that where is that coming from?
I don't know, but Neil's about to say something.
Yeah, I know. I can see it coming.
He's about to say something hilarious.
As a respectful person, this is not my place, so I would like Abby to field this question.
Wait, what?
But if you want a shitty take afterward,
do a shitty take.
No,
you honestly
be
have something active
serious,
to say.
though,
No,
but
but you gotta have something active to say. Like, say your thing.
I just think with all diversity, we like, and I want to preface this. Do not take this out of context. Don't be clipping me out. We need voices. I was talking about this. That's why I almost exclusively tour with women. Is like, it can't just be three guys that look like me and Tyler. Like it's a nightmare. You need variety. Just a variation. Even just a different looking fat white guy. Please give me, give me something
fat
else.
white guy with black hair. Maybe.
Yeah, please, yes. Like just one that shaves, one that knows how to shave.
Yeah.
So we need diversity. The problem is that if no Muslims see Muslims on stage, they're not going to think that they can get on stage, right? So you need the Muslims there so that other Muslims are like, oh, I can be lesbians, transgendered people, blondes, all the things. You need to see yourself up there, fat people. You need to see yourself up there so that you think you can be up there. Oh, I'm just like that person. That's why the audience at a Chelsea Lynn show is all big ladies. Like they're like, oh, I see me represented,
like
and you because you like
trying to smash these big ladies.
Because you like low hanging
up with these big chicks.
It's detected, by the way.
Yeah, you like low hanging fruit in more sense than one. So you need this, right? But the problem is if there's only 2 Muslim lesbian midgets in your scene, they both get, in the word I use is drafted. They both get drafted to the next level immediately.
Right.
And there's no way 100% of any demographic is going to be awesome. Right? So the fortunate thing for this dummy who only likes male comics is that there's 1 million of us. So the 150 or 2,000 that get through are probably pretty good. The 2% got through.
Right.
But if there's only 3 Karen looking ladies and 2 of them get drafted, one of them's going to suck.
Right.
You know? So then you're like, oh, I've only seen 2 female comics and one of them sucks.
Right.
50% of all women comics suck. It's not true.
Right.
They're just who got through first. You know what I mean? And a lot of times looks take precedence when it's a female or, you know, whatever, or opportunity, which is often wealth, presents an opportunity. So like the really good female might not be able to afford to go to Mike's in the City, or they might not feel safe going to Mike's in the City.
Right.
And so, yeah, like this dummy who's only seen 3 female comics, one of them's Kathy Griffith, one of them's Natalie Cuomo. Yeah, 2 out of 3 comics suck. You're right.
Yeah.
You're right.
Well, sometimes that's not even a thing about comedy. I feel like there's some dudes just hate anything, anytime women do anything.
Yeah, that guy's probably just an asshole and wouldn't he probably doesn't think Sarah Silverman's funny. And then it's like, well, you're just objectively wrong.
He's probably the same guy that says like, you got to be an asshole to women because they don't like nice guys.
Yeah.
He thinks he's the nice guy, and he's not.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my feeling on that. Is just like, it's a dumb take.
Yeah.
But if your sample size is very small,
right,
you think you're correct, and you're not correct.
Right. You can see where they got there, but they didn't take the extra step.
Well, yeah, it's like the kind of thing like just. More guys kind of want to do it than girls. And we've talked about it before. I was like, if there's 2 women in the scene and one's good, their numbers are better than ours because 50% of us are not good.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Their hit rate's better. Yeah.
Right.
Abby, your thoughts?
You know, we're not socialized to be funny. There's no value in that, right? Like, you know, heterosexually, if we think about like evolutionarily, right? Men are like, that's like the main thing that women want from a mate. It's like the second thing you say about someone. How was the date? He was really nice. He was really funny. How many times have you come back to talk to your friends about a hot date you went on and you're like, yo, she was so funny? It's like not, it's like you already want to fuck us because we're pretty and we're all those other things. So, so that's like, we're not socialized to be whatever. And as a matter of fact, then being funny is also like a sign of being intellectual, which is also not necessarily a thing that we were like socialized to be like expressing around men. So like I would say around my friends, my female friends, like a lot of my friends are really funny, but like I bet a lot of the male friends in their group would never be like, oh, Allison's really hilarious. It's like we're hilarious kind of with each other, but it's like when you get around men, you're like, I'm just pretty and I'm like this other thing. There's a lot to do, but there's also just like the scene. It's like it's trite, it's whatever, but it's hard to be the only woman in a room. Like even for someone who feels like, you know, I grew up with guys, I hang out with guys, like I get it. It's intimidating sometimes to walk in the room and it's like, and men treat each other in this different way. You know, I was thinking when we walked into that what was that show? The Don't Tell in wherever that town was. We did a Don't Tell recently. Yeah. And everybody knew each other and it was like people, all these guys from other teams.
Oh, no, you're talking about Kansas City.
And all the guys were like dabbing each other up, like, what's up? Blah, blah. And they're like, hey. and it's like I'm the girlfriend in the room or like the whatever. And
To
it's like
be
no,
fair, we knew each other.
sure, but like even the guys you didn't know, it's like, yo, bro, this is Neil, this is Whoa, this is my boy, whatever.
Right.
Oh, this is Abby, this is like this chick that rolls with him. Like I guess they're fucking, and it's like I get it, but it takes a while to get that same kind of like,
But that's the work we're doing, right?
Well, I think
that's what
sure,
we're doing.
And I also think that transcends comedy, right?
Yeah.
So I work like,
But that's the work we're doing too. Like that's what we're trying to do right now. Is like interrupt you, make sure to interrupt women. Make sure to interrupt women when they're talking.
Yeah, like I work in a corporate setting, and my friend does like a diversity kind of training for people, and then she'll like go to places and be like, what can we do better here? And she's like, one of the things you could do is like make the women feel more included, even when they walk into the meeting, to be like, like how's your there's just like a different way that they greet each other. But I've been thinking about this over the last couple of days. I've been traveling with you a lot, and we've been hanging out with a lot of dudes, and everybody's always doing their top 5, who's on your Mount Rushmore, blah, blah, blah. I know you really like Sarah Silverman, but like every comic that we've talked about in the car for this past week has been a dude. Like, who's your top people? It's like a dude. And I know there's more dudes, but like the women, it's just like we have more struggle to.
I mean, my top one is always going to be Sarah.
Yeah.
I mean, I always talk about her.
There's fewer of us, and it'll take some time, but
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, but I think we're getting there too, because it used to be the only women who could get to comedy, right? Because humor is like this kind of masculine and self-deprecating thing, which like the traditional feminine energy is not like that. So the people who got to be funny were fat, lesbians, Jewish, right? There's like an element of this where you can kind of...
All right.
No, I mean for women, right?
Small dick, smell bad, farts too much.
No, I'm saying for the women that the scene opened up for, right? Because there's a certain element of like they naturally were more able to lean into like the anti-femininity role, right? You're like a big girl, or you're gay, or you're like Jewish people have this fun little self-deprecating thing. There's always that thing, and so those were the women. So there's
Patti
like
Smith had that like fucking
so it's like it's not as often that you get like an Eliza Schlesinger who's like the very traditional, and her audience is pretty exclusively women. I mean, I would say like there's not that many guys who would say that Eliza Schlesinger is like their top.
She's not my top, but I really enjoy her.
But she's great. But I'm just saying like it's harder. Like that feminine energy is like a thing that happens later. But we're getting there. That's my deep thoughts.
It is interesting what you were saying, where the whole thing about like no guys ever says like I went on a date. Oh, she was so funny.
I want to put him on like 1.5. You know what I mean? Like I just want to press like 1.5.
What do you mean?
Just talk a little faster. What are we waiting so long?
Somewhere between me and her.
Yeah. We just split the difference.
We'll do that when we edit.
Wait, no guy.
Slowpoke Rodriguez. Like,
let him say his thing.
But it's funny because like one of my biggest attractions to my wife is that I think she's very funny.
Hell yeah.
But now that you mention it, she's not as funny as me. I never thought about that. That probably the only reason. Like I think if she started getting funnier than me, I wouldn't.
You'd be intimidated.
I wouldn't like it as much.
And often, what men want out of a woman when they say she has a good sense of humor is that she's able to laugh at your jokes, as opposed to make you laugh. That's like within reason. I'm not saying everybody. We're all different.
Yeah.
Some people like.
I was about to.
But
But not me.
The women that you have historically had deep relationships with, have they been funny?
Kathleen was. Kathleen. Yeah. I mean, I still have stuff in my
hilarious. Funny.
I still have jokes in my set that like she tagged up.
All right. Okay. Cool. All right. I like it.
Holly, on the other hand, no sense of humor whatsoever.
Well, I hope Holly is watching.
Basically, a wet blanket. Just a total. Just literally the worst sense of humor. Can't take a joke. Can't deliver a joke. Often doesn't understand what a joke is. Holly can't.
All right, so my wife is basically the same way. She has many virtues. Humor's just not one of them. One time, she fucking just killed me, and it was with the lamest joke that if I said on stage, it would just groans.
We met in Nashville, and she was like, "Oh, you're a comedian. Tell me a joke," which that's not going to go well.
For fuck's sake!
And so I did it, and it went exactly as you thought. She was like, "And then what do you say?" And, I was like,
and then when does the joke part start? Yeah.
And then we were walking, and there was a Jimmy John's next to a Papa John's, and I said, "Do you think they're related? Same last name?" And she had to take a knee, and I was like, Never laugh at that again. That is the worst joke.
Right.
All right. That's my story. I just wanted to tell that joke on
No, but that's
the
the
podcast.
right. That's the thing is you don't know. There's no accounting for taste.
Yeah, I mean, she
guess.
likes me. That's weird.
Especially after that little tirade.
She's just not funny.
Yeah.
Now, Abby, you're balancing your comedy with like a corporate. Is it a 9 to 5, or do you have any flexibility in your
I have
schedule?
a lot of flexibility. Yeah,
Okay.
I have a 9 to 5, and then I like own a women's clothing store, and
Mhm.
I'm just trying to like juggle all the things. So
Gosh,
yeah, it is.
okay.
It's wild. Yeah.
So road opportunities, I mean, they have to be kind of like very carefully selected, I would think.
So I do have the kind of flexibility though, where I've been able to do that. I mean, like my job is more like deliverable based, but it is like exhausting. You know, you still have to like get stuff done and try to figure out. So like I was supposed to actually do this last leg. I was supposed to come Tuesday, and I like called Neil crying on Monday, and I was like, it's too much. He's like, just breathe. The show into Tuesday is probably not gonna be worth you coming anyway. Just figure it out. And yeah, so it's hard to kind of juggle all that stuff.
That's hard too, because like I'm like selfishly, I want to be like, no, I can't. I can't get through this terrible show without you here. And she's like, yeah. And I'm like, all right, no, do what you got to do.
But then, like, as you know, and also as like Tyler was talking about, the flip side of that is that I've got the financial stability to do things that, like, you know, we can just like pay for the hotel. And like, I flew like 5 times this month to kind of come do stuff with you. And like, so there's a different kind of, you know, and I can say yes to things that I like. I'm opening for someone at Helium in Kansas City and they are paying for nothing basically other than the thing. And like, that's not worth it for anybody, but I'm like, yeah, the opportunity is worth it. So I'm going to do it.
But I was thinking today about how back in like, I don't know, maybe like in the 80s, this stopped, maybe early 90s, where I think it was not unusual for you to see like some sort of taping of a comedy show in like New York or something that would be televised. And the guy would be wearing like a suit. And because that's kind of what he was trying to do, he was trying to mold himself after, just like how the LA guys would just, everything was my sitcom. I want to get a sitcom. All the guys that wanted to get on a late night show they would all be wearing suits and stuff. And then like today, if you go into a comedy class, when we went to Austin, we saw so many comics perform in such a short period of time. And every single one of them looked like a copy paste of the same sort of schlubby, messy hair, white dude, you know, didn't shave, dirty shoes, looks kind of
My
homeless.
shoes aren't that.
But like 100% of the guys are all exactly the same. They all look like they were wearing it. It was very inauthentic because they were all doing exactly the same thing.
And there's actually a couple of people in New York who've started like dressing up to the nines.
Rob White dresses.
What?
Rob White wears this.
Yeah, I'm thinking like Chase Duerceau, who's like out of Houston. Actually, he like wears like a tuxedo jacket on stage, and it's a little bit like, yo, what's going on here? But then actually, he's a murderer, and so you're like, oh, he's like, this is how I feel my best. I look, you know, and I think he's actually stepped up other people's kind of wardrobe. I think it feels like more of a costume, the sort of vibe that you're talking about these kids who look like they like extra tried not to shower and like look a certain way because like. That's how they're looking on that like cum podcast or whatever. You know, like this is what comedians look like now. I don't know.
It just seems like we're all on the same page now, that a person who looks like they're trying to look like a Banana Republic catalog model is not going to be funny, but somebody who looks like a street kid is going to be hilarious. I feel like that's a very readily accepted thing, even here locally. And it just seems to me like, well, that wasn't the way you dress doesn't stop you from being funny. Because if that were the case, all those guys wearing suits doing stand up 20, 30 years ago.
Yeah, I think if you're funny or not, I think that people are going to stop looking at what you're wearing.
Yeah. Like I know a guy who wears a jumpsuit on stage every night because he's like, I don't want anybody to be paying attention to what I'm wearing. I just.
But then everyone is like, why is the janitor on stage?
Yeah.
So it's not working.
He's wearing like coveralls.
Yeah.
Yeah. He looks like my grandfather.
That's a vibe. That's a vibe. Yeah. I don't know. I think the best way to go is to try to be the most innocuous that you can be. Like even like the other day, I like wore this on stage and it has words on it, and then this guy like after like people can't stop. Oh, you Detroit? I'm like, oh, I knew you weren't thinking about any joke I told on stage. Like trying to just be more. I don't know.
Do you find as a woman that you get audiences are more distracted and or more likely to interject? So I feel like I kind of been watching like
Outfit based or just woman based?
woman based, where like it's more like they're less concerned about what me and Tyler are wearing than they are about what you're wearing.
For sure.
Yeah?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. For sure. Yeah,
So-
totally. But yeah, I don't know.
I don't have the data to back
But they're
up
more
that
likely to
Susan-
interject.
I think they're more likely to interject. I mean, just because like men interrupt women more than
Yeah.
women interrupt men.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. If it's outfit based.
I don't know if it's outfit based.
If you're like sexier on stage.
Yeah, if you're sexier, aren't they going to be like more?
Yeah, I would never.
Prone
There's
to
a couple
be-
of women in the city that wear like skirts on stage, and I do not know how they do it because it's like they're already not paying attention to us. I feel like half the time, and now you're like, oh, looking hot up there. I try to look as not hot as possible.
Reminds me of Alicia
Me too.
Hush's joke.
What did she say?
She's like she brings attention to her boobs, and she is Alicia Hush from New York. She's from Houston originally. She said she brings attention to her boobs, and she's like, "Isn't it funny that these are just gonna be cancer one day?" And it just immediately like snaps you out of it. It's like now I'm gonna tell jokes. Like so, like pay attention.
Mhm. It does seem like being preoccupied with the way anything you do that looks like you did it on purpose kind of sends a vibe that you are preoccupied with your look, regardless of what direction you're going.
I mean, for me, it just goes back to authenticity. Like,
Right.
if you're being your authentic self, like, you seem like the kind of guy who would dress like this, and then your jokes are going to portray that. You
Mhm.
seem like a guy who would dress like this, and your jokes are going to portray it.
Mhm.
If you get up there in a fucking banana costume, it's like, what? You don't
Yeah.
go to this mall like that. You don't.
Right.
And if you do, I don't think you're a funny. I'm not going to think you're a funny person.
Yeah.
So.
Mhm.
Yeah, my grandma has been begging for me
Come
to
on,
let
grandma.
her make me a jacket for when
To
I'm
wear.
on stage. Yeah,
Oh,
like a
that's so
suit
cute.
jacket.
Oh,
That's
suit
really
jacket.
She's 80 years old.
Let her make you a
Yeah.
jacket.
Yeah, we can't.
Gotta
Yeah.
let her make you a jacket.
That's how I want one too.
I want a jacket.
Will she crochet it? She crochet me a nice jacket.
God, I hope
A
that's
nice
not what she had
sweater.
on.
Crochet. It'll be like a mesh
A
jacket.
cardigan.
Well, the whole thing is like I told her, I was like, I actually like own sports jackets and I have a suit.
It's just like not your
Yeah.
vibe in
Yeah,
normal
I
life.
was like,
yeah.
I got the clothes already.
Yeah, I think you're just gonna lean
It's
in.
not something I wear all the time.
Yeah, just lean into what you're most comfortable with.
We just
It's not a
recently
costume.
we recently celebrated the 1 year anniversary of this podcast like a week ago.
Nozzle, yay.
And the reason that we thank you, the reason that we started doing it is I don't know. The first episode we got on stage and talked about the fact that we had just done a corporate fundraiser.
That was the second one.
Was
But
it?
yeah, that was the first one we
Okay.
had a guest. So
Yeah,
kind of
yeah,
the
yeah.
first one, yeah.
Right. The first one was kind of a so we talked about the experience of like kind of dressing up and going and doing a benefit as a comedy show and how terribly that went. You guys have you ever okay. All right. So do you have any horror stories about corporate and stuff
Just
like that?
benefit shows?
A benefit show
Yeah.
for a Jewish
the
center.
JCC. The best one that we did a couple years ago was in Sherman, Connecticut. It was the Jewish Community Center,
Mhm.
and Neil was there, and a comedy friend of ours was like running
R.I.P.
it.
Steve Carl.
Steve Carl.
Great dude. Super good dude.
Yeah.
Recently passed.
Rest in peace. And so he organized it, and it was like at 2 p.m. on like a Sunday, which is prime time for comedy.
Mhm.
And we trekked in there, and like you already knew it's like, all right, it's gonna be a daytime show at a Jewish community center. Like, what's this gonna be? I mean, these people
Right.
were like, it was just a sea of white hair, right? So you're just like immediately rewriting.
Which could be good.
Yeah, sure. But
Yeah.
it's like,
Right.
you're like, I'm like, I gotta cut these, this is not gonna work. And you're just like, all right. But the little lady who like ran the place and was gonna like bring up the host was like,
Oh, you're the host.
I was the host.
Yeah.
And she's like, I'll introduce you and I'll bring you onto the stage. And so she gets up there and she it took her forever to even get to the,
She walks like you talk.
she slowly shuffled into the microphone and she does this like 10 minutes of announcements where she's like, well, and we'd like to recently the Steve Jones passed away, was hit by a car in a terrible accident. Now Steve, he used to make violins, beautiful violins. And these violins were in a beautiful museum, and the museum recently burned to the ground. Like it just kept getting worse and worse, and we're like waiting for the show to start, and she's like, and then she's reading off like the agenda of other things they're doing at the JCC that week. She's like,
This is 100% true. This is as factual as can be.
and she's like, and tomorrow we're going going to be showing a film. It's called Denial. It's about denial of the Holocaust because it's still happening today in this country, and Jews died, millions of Jews. Anyway, we have a couple comedians that are here to cheer us up. You come up here, young lady, and do your little jokes. And I had to host
That's
after
very
that.
similar to the
That's
thing we did.
exactly what happened.
Yeah.
You remember the
It
details?
It was all about child abuse.
Yo, the girl,
Yeah.
yo, the lady was
Yeah.
like, whatever, Cantor Rabinowitz has recently passed away, but his wife's here today, and everyone's like, oh, and she has leukemia. And I was like, oh. And it's like, but he used to make violins. And I was like, oh, and they burned to the ground.
It's a fucking roller coaster.
It's so bad. They never understand how to bring you up, and they're just
Now
like, yeah.
Ambi Washuta.
Yeah.
Here to tell us their little jokes and cheer us up. So, how did your thing go after they brought you up to child abuse?
It was horribly.
Yeah.
It went real bad. I was supposed to do 10
You were
minutes.
first, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. After the host.
Right.
But it was.
Was the host actually hosting, or was it the host talking about the child abuse and the?
No, they had some lady talking about it. It was for like.
Arms of an
They get,
angel.
It was the people who represent.
Yeah, they get like legal help for like abused children like out of situations, and she's telling a story about a certain kid and all the abuse this kid had, and she's crying.
Oh my god! And then you followed that.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
then it's
Now
like
to cheer
it's
us
time
up.
for the comedy. And then we had a thing before this. There was months before where I was like, "Is this?" I was like,
clean
"All
show.
I have is dirty material." I've been doing comedy like 6 months or something, and that's just all I could think of was dirty stuff.
Mm.
And he was like, "Oh yeah, it's fine. Everything will be okay." I'm like, "All right."
And now it's a child abuse convention.
Yeah, and they were not fine.
And
with
you're
dirty.
like, dicks, am I right? Yeah.
Judges
I
and
was supposed to-
lawyers all
I
in the
was supposed
front
to do
row.
10 minutes, and it was like at 4 minutes, the lady
just like-
was just like, "How do we get him off the stage?"
But set it at full
Yeah.
volume.
Oh my god. Yeah. No, people don't always understand. Like the comedy fundraiser, people do not like understand what we're doing. And like also I have gotten into like producing more stuff like that. Like been lucky enough to like people want to do a private show.
Right.
And you have to tell people what can, because like they don't know, and they're actually coming to you for like advice, and they don't even realize. They're like, oh, I want to do a part. Like someone called me, and they're like, oh, it's my husband's birthday. I want one comedian to come out, and for $60, I want him to do an hour, and I want him to roast my husband. And I was like, well, no. First of all, no one who's good enough to do an hour and be entertaining is going to do it for $60 and write brand new jokes for your husband and whatever. So
Yeah,
here's what we
for
will do
real.
for you. And you just have to like, yeah. So if someone calls you about the child abuse convention, you have to go like, that doesn't lend itself to the,
Yeah.
yeah.
I learned my lesson about that for sure.
I do have one horror story, but it's not for me. It's for someone else who ended up quitting comedy from this night. I swear to God, this kid never did comedy again. We were at like the Long Island Club, and it was a fundraiser for like, I don't know, like a baseball team or whatever. And I have tons of death stuff, and I was like, I said something and like got like a real crazy response. And I was like, oh, like these people know each other, and something happened. And like I kind of vibed that it was like this area. I was like, oh, what? I was like, I'm sorry, can I ask like what happened? And they were like, oh, and they told me this like sad thing, and I was like, I'm not gonna be able to service this. I was like, sorry about your thing. I'm gonna change gears. I'm like, that's tough. I was like, baseball's cool. I like baseball. I tried to just like be social for a minute, like eat a couple of minutes, and I was like, hey guys, sorry, whatever. And like, just I hoped that the host could fucking reel it back in, right? I fucked up, but there was there's no coming back from it. But I didn't lean into it. I was like,
Right.
ooh, like,
Yeah.
I fucked this up. I'm only have 8 minutes, so like this is like a few years ago. So I was like, all right. So I walked off stage. The host came up. The host kind of like shucked and jived for a minute, like tried to get it back a little bit. And the next kid came up and like was like tried to roast me about making the mistake,
Right.
but instead just brought back up
Right.
this tragedy that they all shared in the first second of his 8 minutes, 12 minutes, and he's just like, and then he's like trying to be like roast joke guy, like roasting him and me about, and like everyone in the back, like all the comics, the manager is like,
Mm.
Right.
This guy off stage,
Oh
kid
my
comes off
gosh.
stage. The manager grabs him by the arm, like he's a younger kid, so like he wouldn't have grabbed me by the arm, but he like grabbed the kid by the arm, dragged him in the back. You could kind of hear him screaming at him in the back.
Yeah.
And then no one ever saw him again.
Dude. Yeah. Young guy, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Ugh, comedy is hard.
Word on the street is he moved to LA after that. So maybe he's ruining audiences in LA.
Oh my god.
We're gonna skip the question, right?
What
The
question?
question doesn't make sense.
What question?
Well,
What's the question?
yeah,
Just
you can
ask
All
ask
right.
him.
Yeah, we'll
Set
just
it up
explain what
for
it
him.
is, and if y'all want to pass it, we can.
Oh,
pass
is this
it.
like
Because
the
normally
first
we've-
5 question?
Yeah.
Is
Yeah, because this is normally just like
traditional.
open micers in here.
What's the
like
question?
us.
So
I don't know. I think it's related to the first 5.
yeah, so normally toward the end of the podcast, what we like to do is ask each comic a hypothetical to try to gauge like how important is comedy to you really. And so
I will kill all 5 of you.
This is where we get into like the Squid Game part of the podcast.
I will
Or like
murder everyone on this
Survivor, yeah.
block to
We're gonna
become-
bring out a thing full of cockroaches.
If you're like you only ever have to do comedy for the rest of your life, I wouldn't care what the rest of the sentence was. Yes.
okay, well that's really kind of what we're getting at here is it all started with one day I was just fucking, I don't know, I was walking in a grocery store and it just occurred to me, if I had to like never have sex ever again in my life
I'll
with
cut my
another
dick right
person,
off.
right? So that
You
all
can have it.
your
I'll walk around with it in a jar. Like
yes, yeah, like a
I
pickle.
hope you don't negotiate your gigs like this.
I kind of do. It just gets us in trouble.
We'll give you $1,500. I'll do it for $75.
I'll pay you.
She's like, "How much are we getting paid tonight?" I'm like, Tyler said, "I don't know."
And that's the passion, you know. It's like I would never do that again with another person if everything would sort of line up for me the way that I wanted it to. So if you were in that situation, making a deal with the devil, what would you give up?
I hail Satan every day. Like, please, whatever you need from me.
Yeah.
What would you
Yes.
give up to basically have comedy work out? Essentially,
Yes,
like
right.
what thing that you love would you give
Yes.
up?
What's the
Yeah,
thing
the
that
thing
you
that
love
you'd
the
have
most?
to, yeah, like the thing that you'd have to like, ooh, let me think about this, you
the
know?
most costly thing.
Carbs? Does that count? No. Something serious?
Oh.
Ooh, carbohydrates. I mean, that would be a thing. Yeah. I don't know.
It's like, oh my god.
So you're saying you'd give up sex?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I basically gave it up anyway.
Mm-hmm.
I'm getting some good sex. God, yeah.
Oh my god, her boyfriend's cock is so big.
It sounds that way.
James Stewart has a massive hog.
Oh my God, so awkward.
James Stewart from Hoboken, New Jersey has a massive hog.
He's gonna die.
James Stewart Photography on Instagram has a massive
It
hog.
looked like she had went into like a sex flashback.
I know. I'm just thinking,
Just
like,
in
oh,
that
it's really
moment, she
good.
wasn't even here anymore.
really
One
good.
time I was picking her up for a tour, and he came out like holding her bags, but he was in like the gray sweatpants, like the.
Oh, nice.
And it was like, oh, that's what they're talking about. Holy shit, put something in front of it, dude. You just walk around with that thing?
Yes. Now you're like putting more into when you get yourself ready when you know you're gonna see him.
I'm like, can I crash
This
with
nail
you guys?
polish.
Are you guys doing that for me?
yeah, new nail polish.
Yeah.
It's on point those days.
She's like, I'll be like, oh, can I crash with you? And she'll be like, I'm not going to be there, but James will be there. I'll be like, yes.
Yeah. No, I mean, as I think about it, though, the sex is very good. But like, yeah, you're like, listen, you could be Amy Schumer, no sex. Yeah, I think I would do that. I think I would take that deal.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds like a good deal.
Yeah. That's
No
a
one has
big
offered it to me to date. I don't know if that's a bargain.
No one's even offered me sex, so it's easy.
So, is there anything that you can think of? Like, I mean, because I think there is nothing, I think is what you're saying. But
I mean, obviously, I wouldn't kill my friends.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Depending on the friend.
No, friends, if you're in that category,
Mm.
Yeah.
you know, because most of the goal for me is to be big enough that I can bring my friends.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like I want to make golden tickets
Mhm.
and like give one to Tyler and Abby and be
Right.
like, anytime you want to come on the bus,
Right.
come on the bus and we'll
Mhm.
find time, we'll find money, we'll find a bunk. Like
Mhm.
you guys are on the team forever and ever.
Right.
And that's part of the fun for me is like getting to hang out with
Mhm.
these folks all the time, you know?
Mhm.
So yeah, that I would rather just be where I'm at now
Mhm.
and get to spend time with all my friends
Right.
than be famous and have no friends.
Mhm.
But I would love to be in a position where I could more readily afford to
Mhm.
bring my friends and to
Yeah.
do this without the stress of, man, I hope I don't get a flat tire and then that's the end of my fucking career.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like if
Yeah.
anything happens to that car, I am fucked
Right.
for a long time.
Knock wood, find
Mhm.
wood, knock on it. I don't know where it is, but.
Yeah, we almost didn't make it to a gig the other night over a flat tire.
Ah.
Yeah,
On the
but
way to
now
Lake
imagine
Charles.
that like that
Right.
was the
Yeah.
only thing you had
Yeah.
Yeah,
in
if
your
that's
life.
when that's your
Yeah.
yeah, that wasn't our
Right.
day
It's
at work.
different
Yeah.
situation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Um,
that is that's a concern where it's just like, yeah, I don't want to be in that position, but I'm not trying to be famous just to be famous. I want to be a stand-up comic.
right.
I want to be what I am, but scaled up. That's it. I just
We-
want to scale this up.
We know a guy who recently said that after watching him for a long time do stand up and wondering like how serious is this guy, he recently confided that he doesn't really want to be famous for stand up. He just wants to be a celebrity.
I actually like people who are honest about that. Like, I don't think there's anything wrong with doing stand up as like a means to a different end. And I actually appreciate when those people like then leave stand up comedy and get the fuck out of our way. Like, I'm
Right.
like, yeah, go. Like, be
Right,
a
taking
TikTok star.
spots. Yeah,
we were
Go-
talking about
just
that
talking about that.
earlier,
Like,
yeah.
that's cool. Like, yeah, you're just doing this so you can get your acting career put.
Yeah.
Sweet, sweet, sweet.
Someone
Peace out.
this happened. This was a long time ago when we were like still doing like mics in the basement. Someone was like, "Oh, so and so got like this crazy opportunity," and it was like, "She doesn't deserve it," whatever, right?
Mhm.
And it's like, no, let them get that because then they're out of our way.
Yeah.
Right.
They're in a new lane
Mhm.
now. I'm no longer competing with that person for bar shows and
Mhm.
stage time on mics and you know all the bullshit that happens locally
Mhm.
as you're trying to get better. So like yeah, like if someone blows up on TikTok or whatever, like they're not taking my spot at Bricktown anymore.
Right.
Now they're at a theater with their friends and it's like, "Oh, good for you, dude. Like do your thing." You know what I mean? It's not costing me anything. What offends me is the juggler getting on Kill Tony.
Right.
Yeah.
Where it's like this opportunity would change my life
Mhm.
and help me do exactly what I want to do, what I've sacrificed everything to do. And this is like a goof for you.
Yeah.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like I get angrier at lawyers that become comics than I do at like a comic who gets a huge opportunity that they don't deserve. Because it's like, well, at least they want to be doing something and they'll get out of my way. Like a lawyer just cutting me in line because they can afford to.
Right.
It's
yeah.
like, well, what?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a fucking bummer to no end.
So yeah, you know.
Well, we really appreciate you guys coming and hanging out with us.
Thanks for having us. This is so fun.
Yeah, this is a lot of fun.
Yeah, great.
This is
way to-
okay.
This is great.
This is a big deal for us, so we really
No,
appreciate
we're-
it.
No,
Yeah,
for
guys.
you for sure. Yeah.
This is so fun. Yeah, you get a sick setup too. Will you come to New York and do one of these for me? Can I pay you? I need a setup.
Yeah.
He's a handyman.
A handyman and a podcast setup.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, we can
Go
do
to.
both of those things.
Because James can only fuck.
With this giant hog.
Yeah.
James and the giant hog.
James the giant hog. James the giant hog. Tell him not to watch this.
He can hang stuff too. You're good at hanging stuff.
All right.
With his dick. No, I'm sorry. That's so dumb.
All right, you guys keep plugging away at it. We'll see you next week.